Before we begin this video, I have a deeply upsetting announcement to make. It is with great sadness and a heavy heart that I announce the death of my Mamiya RZ67. But worry not, dear viewer, as according to the guy at the repair shop, it only needs a bit of lubrication. Well, that was a fucking lie. I was in the process of editing this video when I received a call from the repair shop telling me that my camera could not be repaired. Naturally, I'm a little upset about this. So now that I've garnered your pity, maybe consider liking and subscribing. Anyway, being left with no medium format camera for a month, I was thrown into a deep depression and affected the withdrawal. I couldn't bring myself to get out of bed. A world without the RZ was not one worth living in. I was at the point of no return. Fortunately, I was cured after watching a Darman video. With a newfound appreciation for life, it was time to take it by the reins and make it my bitch. The first step in my journey? eBay. I wasn't only going to shoot my Yashica T4, and you best believe I ain't shooting digital, so that only left me with one option: to pay way more money than necessary for another film camera. I wanted a lightweight rangefinder with amazing quality, without needing to get a sugar mama. Unfortunately, this ruled out cameras like the Mamiya 7 and Plauble Makina 670. With not many options left, there were only a few cameras that really stuck out to me. But only one that I wanted to stick in me. And that was the Fuji GW690iii, aka the Texas Leica. I chose the Fuji GW690iii for a multitude of reasons. The biggest being the massive 6x9 negative that produces. And unlike your significant other, you'll definitely be satisfied with the size. But hey, I'm sure your 35mm point and shoot gets the job done just fine. Anyway, there are a ton of things on this camera that I didn't really expect to love as much as I did. The biggest example of this being the 90mm f3.5 fixed lens. It's a 40mm equivalent, and because of this camera, I now love that focal length. I just like how it's slightly more punched in than the 35mm. I feel like it gives you a better in-between for a 28 and a 50mm, and then you just have your 40mm in between those. But I mean, it doesn't really work with this camera since it's a fixed lens. The lens itself is super sharp, and I find the f3.5 perfectly adequate for what I want to use this camera for, which is going on walks and just taking pictures or landscapes. Just like the straws I love sticking up the schnozzes of endangered sea turtles, the camera's made of pretty much all plastic. It definitely feels a bit cheap compared to my RZ, but as I established in my last video, this isn't really a problem for me. However, something that definitely was a fucking problem for me last video was the M3's lack of a light meter, and unfortunately, this camera has the same issue. What's different with this camera though is that it's already so big that I don't really mind carrying around a light meter with me. What I do really mind though is the shutter sound on this camera. It's straight doo-doo. I mean, going from the RZ with the most seductive shutter sound in any camera to this is painful. Another gripe I have about this camera is it's not very ergonomic, and it can definitely be a bitch sometimes to change your exposure settings. Other than that, I don't really have much to complain about. I mean, the only other thing would maybe be the viewfinder can sometimes be a little dim, but that's not that big of a problem really. I mean, going from the RZ to this is a massive step up in portability, so I don't really have much to complain about. Oh my god, bro, that dog's